Good afternoon. It is Monday afternoon on May 11th, and this is going to be one of the weekly videos that I do prepare. I do like, as I mentioned in my opening, to go back over what we've done in the week just past and try to give you a preview of what's coming up. And maybe make some commentaries on the content of the course and on the content of the discussion and how I think things are going. And with all that being said, I think after the first week that things are going rather well, particularly in the large group that we have. This is a little bit, at least in an upper division course, in a 400 level course, a large group. And it's sometimes it's we have some smaller ones, and sometimes a large group discussion can go either way. It can be either intimidating because of the number of people, or it can be very inviting because you have a lot of things to respond to and things to look at, things to read, and things to understand. So take advantage of what we have here. I think you're going to see a lot of differing of opinions, and also then sometimes you can see consensus building amongst people as to how the interpretation of the material is going. And it's an interesting process. It's never the same twice, and one of the things that makes doing education so interesting to me, and something that I really enjoy being in this line of work as an educator. One of the things I think is also very interesting right now is you're going to find a lot of institutions who have never engaged in online learning before suddenly waking up to the possibilities and the realities of the excellent product that it can be. And I think we have a chance to continue to deliver excellent product here, and it is my goal that we do that. So if there are ever any concerns that you have, please, I'm one of the things I really have done. I'm about doing continuous improvement. Let's make this better every time. Okay, first week's discussion. Very interesting, right? About a model that has been around for, shall we say, thousands of years. And the video you watched about a hunter-gatherer group and how they self-organized and maybe a little bit beyond self-organized became an organization instead of just a bunch of individuals. And we talked a lot about, at least I talked a lot about, a lot of my responses to you folks, about the either convergence or divergence of individual interest and group interest. Does self-interest affect the group? Does the group interest affect the self? And I think we had a lot of opinions, and I really enjoyed reading what people had to say. It looks like everybody did give it some serious thought. And the amount that people even brought in other sources other than what we provided, but were able to watch the video, do the readings in the texts, put two and two together and see what was happening. That's where we want to be. And I really enjoyed the detail at which many people began their week's work. This is becoming more and more common, I'm happy to say. I go back teaching online about 15 years, and back early on you'd get opening posts of 1 and 2 sentences that made you wonder what people were doing. You folks certainly aren't doing that. You are writing extensive analyses, which is really good, because I do think, as I tried to emphasize in my opening video for the course, a lot of the learning is going to come in the discussions. That's where we have our work cut out for us, right? To be relevant and stimulating and challenging, yet be respectful and really have a discussion. And in order to do that, we do need to follow the guidelines that are in the rubric. They are there not just to give you deadlines so you have deadlines. They're created in order to foster a productive discussion, which is what we really want to happen. Now, week 2 is going to be a little different. Week 2 is going to have a discussion about a little bit of a history lesson. For me, it's not a history lesson. For me, it was my life. The Cold War era is the story of my formative years, when we lived in quite different conditions. And actually, it's kind of interesting because of what we're going through today in terms of the the coronavirus pandemic, that seems to put everything into a different context, into a different view. So looking back these 50 years more or more, for me, more than 50 years to the Cold War era, is a really interesting exercise. But what it does is it's there for a certain reason. It's there to show the changes in circumstances and how organizations were organized and how they are organized. And what are the possibilities? What were the realities? How are things changing? How do organizations respond to change? Should they make moves in one direction? Should they use different moves from the past? What should they do? And it's a really interesting exercise for a lot of our folks, because we do have a very strong military contingent in this class. You're going to be able to provide some very interesting insights for those who don't have a military background. So it's I think it's a very interesting week. It's a very challenging week. I remember when I first saw it, I kind of questioned, really, is this historical reference? Am I the only one in the room who's going to understand it? It's grown on me with every time I teach the course, so that's why it's still there. So please take it quite seriously. The other thing too is we are also in the midst of writing, and writing to me is very important. So you're going to get the first set of grades coming back from both the discussion and the writing. What I have to tell you is that I do go by the rubrics that you see in the assignments and with the discussion. I try to stick to those as closely as I can. It makes things much more clear for all of us as to what the expectations are. But remember, it isn't just to be following rules. What it is to create a climate of communication and to let you practice your skills in clear, business-like communication in order to make an argument, make your point. As you go out into organizations, you're going to be doing nothing but communicating all the time. And it's important that you have those skills. So, pardon me if every once in a while, in the weeks to come, I may actually seem like an impersonation of your high school English teacher, but it's done with the importance of developing solid communication skills. Can't tell you how often I run into people who have a wonderful idea and then have a very difficult time communicating it. Well, if you can't communicate it, it's not a wonderful idea, because it's just not understood. And that's something I really want us to avoid. So bear with me as we do that. And what you'll find is I try to offer as many helpful suggestions as I can. Sometimes the feedback can be a little bit extensive. It will probably be more extensive in the early weeks, and then drop back as you see more and more and more and are used to the kind of commentary that we engage in. So that's important. But really, the writing is as critical as anything, and the discussion to me is absolutely where we're going to learn an awful lot of things. So in this early week, you chose the organization you're going to kind of follow throughout the analyses and do some exercises on. And I think if you've chosen well, and the choices that are out there are just myriad, you'll find plenty of interesting material to work with. Okay, so I am going to try to get the discussions. This is also a thing I didn't put in the organization, the logistical part of the first video in the introductions. Sorry, getting a little tongue-tied here. I try to do the discussion first, then the papers. Why? Because the discussion, you have a deadline early in the week. You have Wednesday. And I try to get things done before Wednesday in the discussion, so it will give you a chance to employ the feedback that you get immediately. So then the written work comes a little later in the week. So try to get discussions done I'll try to get those graded by Tuesday, papers Wednesday and Thursday, so that when you're getting into them and have that weekend deadline, you'll have the chance to, again, employ the feedback that you've gotten and take advantage of it. Okay? Really enjoyed the first week. I think things are headed in the right direction, and make sure you contact me with any questions, because that's important too. And we can, the problem that we can head off is a problem we don't have to deal with later. So thank you for your attention. Keep up what I saw this week, and thank you very much.